Morning, church. Open up your scriptures. This most blessed scripture to the Psalms. And we're going to be in the 23rd. And if you need a Bible, slip your hand up and we'll get you one. So excited about SOD. If you are not serving Wednesday night and you want to come join us, it's marriage and parenting. It's going to be all of that. And everyone's welcome. Married, single, kids, no kids. It has an impact on the way we interact with each other. That's really what we're going to be talking about. So as we have been looking at this, the Lord is my shepherd. It begins with that specific aspect of relationship. It moves as we continue to go through the fact that that first test is obedience. Will I do what he says? Will I go where he leads? Will I allow his restoration? And as Sheba taught last week, I thought such a great word from Sheba last week. And the testimony, from the testimony was so powerful from Brenda of faithfulness in the midst of the pain. Listen, if it were not for the Joneses, this church would not exist right now. I don't know what it would be, but if it wasn't for their faithfulness, this church wouldn't exist. And to walk through that time of pain and faithfulness, even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death. I've heard some Bible commentators say, it's a shadow meaning it's not real. Listen, there's a shadow, it is real. It's a real thing. This death thing is real. It is the ultimate threat that is on each of us. This death, this shadow. He says, I will fear no what? Evil. Because evil doesn't exist? No. Evil exists. Evil exists. I grew up in a law enforcement home. My son's a cop. My daughter's a defense attorney. Evil exists. What's happened, that we have to have metal detectors in our schools to keep our kids and our teachers safe. And we do. I'm not opposing it. How did we get so broken that someone would think it's okay to just maliciously harm people? Well, just go back a couple hundred years. How did we get so broken we thought someone could be so bad they could think they could own someone? This is not new. This disdain, distaste for humanity is not a new thing. It's just a new face of it. This broken. It says that he is with us. See, there's a change in the pronoun. In English, if I say the word you, we don't know if I'm talking about you or you. But in the Greek and the Hebrew, you know the plurality of the pronoun and the person of the pronoun. And when it says that I will fear no evil for you are with me, it is a second person singular pronoun. God is no longer he out there conceptually. No, God is close. We're going to see just how close. He says, your rod and staff, they comfort me. When we talk about the rod and staff, few people carry those shepherd's hooks. You know, we think the only time we see those is at the Christmas play, right? And the kids come out and they've got those. We have a bunch of them upstairs. And the rod and staff, I brought these because I think they're actually more descriptive. This is the rod. It's a defensive weapon. It can be used offensively. This was my father's. This is a weapon. It has no point other than a weapon. The rod is a weapon. It's used against animals, and I'm going to tell you something. In the hands of someone who knows how to use this, this is a very incredible weapon. Your rod and your staff. The staff it helps you walk. It also is a guide. If a snake comes along the trail, you can knock it off the trail. You can use this with your kid. You would never use this as a weapon against your child. Only somebody that's sick would do something like that. But you might bring them back on the trail with it. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. Both of these things bring comfort when they're in the hands of the one who is near to us and who cares for us. In the hands of someone who is not near to us and doesn't care for us, these are terrifying things. This is a terrifying thing if it's in the hands of someone who doesn't care for you. Here's the interesting thing. We want God to have this for us. Lord, I need you to step in these people's lives that are hurting me, but do we want this one? Do we want that direction? Do we want that correction? On any given moment, this is the one I need a whole lot more than that one. Because 9 times out of 10, the worst enemy in the world to Randy is Randy. The things that I would do to myself to bring harm into my own life. This God is with us. It is more than a feeling. He is close. He is at work. It's the essence of this. This is an aggressive action by God that he is engaged in bringing comfort into my life. This is the same thing that we see Jesus doing in John chapter 10. It says, I will give them eternal life and they will never perish. Watch this. This goes back to the evil thing. No one will snatch them from my hand. Why does he say that? Because there are people out there that want to do that very thing, to snatch. And I'm not just talking about the terror that everyone faces when they go to the mall with a young child. You ever have an escape artist kid? Sarah was an escape artist kid, okay? Daniel and Elizabeth would stay with us, but Sarah would go and run. You don't see them much anymore, but they used to have those round clothing racks in stores. Sarah would run and find one, climb up in the middle of it and hide. And the only way we could get her, like when she was 3, she would just get out of the stroller and run and hide. And the only way we would know where she is, we'd say, okay, you win, we can't find you. Which is a little weird to say in the middle of a clothing store, I'm just going to say. But then she would say, I'm right here, and then we could find her. This is the snatching, though, that listen, church, we have enemies. You have enemies. You have people in your life that don't want the best for you. This is why he says in verse 29 of John 10, my Father has given them to me is greater than all, and no one is able to snatch them out of the Father's hand. I and the Father are one. Here's the image of this, that we are here, and Jesus has his hand on us, and the Father has his hands on both. That we have that level of protection because we have a God who is close. He uses both tools, the rod and the staff. And now watch this. Because past that, he prepares a table for us. A table. The table changes things. To have a table. When you have a table, it makes a camping trip doable, doesn't it? If you're just picnicking, it's a little uncomfortable, and the older you get, the less romantic a picnic is, okay? It's like, well, it's gonna take me a while to get down there, And now I gotta get back up. But if you got a table, thank you, Derek. If you got a table, it changes things. It's wonderful. But he isn't just giving us a table. No, he's preparing a table. In the ancient Near East, the table was everything. The size of your herd, the size of your tent, the size of your army was far less of a deal than your table. But when you invited someone to your place, I was out in the desert 4 years ago with a bunch of Bedouins, and we were out looking over the Dead Sea, and it's about a 2,500 foot just straight drop down to the Dead Sea from the top of this where we were, and they go, oh wow, this is beautiful.
There's your special plate.
Oh, it's my You Are Special plate. Yeah. Thank you, Derek. And my coffee, that's what's really good. And there's silverware here. Thank you, Derek.
Yes, sir.
I really appreciate it. Thank you much. Sure appreciate it. All right, thank you, Derek. Derek serves at Discovery High School. He's a custodian, which means he does all the things that nobody else wants to do. But boy, if you don't have it, it's a bad deal, right? Yeah, thank you. So he also has raised one of my favorite people in the whole world, Jade, who watched our grandkids all summer. He prepares this table. In the ancient Near East, the master of the house would provide, but not prepare the table. But you see, God isn't far off. No, God comes up close and prepares the table, and he gives us this table. The table changes everything. Joy Harjo, who is the U.S. Poet Laureate, she has this poem, and this poem it says, "Perhaps the world ends here," and it just talks about all the things of the table. In most homes in the ancient Near East, you wouldn't have a living room. You would have beds and a place to eat. In Acts chapter 2, what's it talk about so much? The table, that it is the table. We will invite you today to the Lord's what? Table. When you come and you sit and eat with someone, it changes everything, doesn't it? Like there's people in our lives that we're like, are you friends? Yeah. Have you eaten with them? Lots of people that you know, but when you come and you sit at the table, and I want to encourage us, and I'm going to talk about it more next week, that we need to do more of the table. We need to eat together more. We need to be more intentional in our homes. The average family spends less than 12 minutes a day now in face-to-face communication. The table. It changes everything. You prepare a table before me. Watch this. He says, in the presence of my enemies. David had enemies. Psalm 58:6. Listen to this. This is the Old Testament view. This is the Old Testament view of the enemy. The Old Testament view is about the holiness and righteousness of God, because when people are attacking the people of God, listen to what David says. Oh God, break the teeth in their mouth, tear out the fangs. Let them, listen to verse 8 in 58. Let them be like the snail that dissolves into slime. Man, that's an imprecatory prayer right there if I ever heard one. Is it accurate? Yeah. Is it complete? No, because Jesus comes in. The Old Testament is not about exclusion. The Old Testament's about exclusion. The New Testament is redemptive. What does Jesus say? Luke 23. He's on the cross. What does he say on the cross? He says, Father, curse them. Is that what he says? No. Forgive them. It's a redemptive act. It's not without justice. Romans 3:23. All have sinned, falls short of the glory of God. Romans 6:23 is the wage of sin. Listen to me. The Lord struck me with this yesterday. I was going through the sermon, and I'm not trying to freak nobody out. This is not hellfire and brimstone. But listen, I do a lot of weddings and I do just as many funerals. And this is the thing right now. I'm doing just as many funerals for people younger than me than older than me. The wage of sin is death. Death is there, it's real, and we are playing for keeps. Do not leave here today without knowing where you stand with Jesus. There'll be people at the crosses today. You can come up here and pray. Slip your hand up. People will pray with you. In this sermon, if you just want to come in the middle of this sermon and pray, you just come. Listen, do not put off a decision that has eternal ramifications to it. We are about missions and serving our community and doing good things and building healthy families and all of those things, and all of that is real, and working in the community and turning the volume down and working in all the places that we possibly can, and all that is true and good. But at the end of the day, guys, this is about there is a heaven and there is a hell, and they are very, very real places. And I didn't write it, I just preach it. This is the gospel. And I don't want to get there and none of you be there. I don't want to look and miss one. Somebody said to me once, we were doing youth group, and I mean, there was like 1,000 kids there on Wednesday night. When we were at Snellville, we would shut down Dogwood Road, like all the way past Brookwood, past the lights. Somebody's like, how many kids do you want? I'm like, all of them. I just want a youth group bigger than the devil's youth group. That's what I want. This is The New Testament view is not without justice. It isn't just filled with loving, kind, gracious statements. There is stuff in there. You get into Titus and talking about eldership, and he says, hold firm to the trustworthy word so that we can give instruction, sound doctrine, and be able to rebuke those that contradict it. This is not about the fact that we just let everything go. We don't just let everything go. But as we're talking about enemies, we've got to be very aware that we've got to have a strategy in the way we deal with our enemies. Strategy number one, I'm almost done. We've got a testimony today. Number one, if possible, be peaceful if possible, but leave the wrath to God. I am not a pacifist. I'm a peacemaker. Those are different things. I have a friend who says, I have a friend that says he's a pacifist. And I say, well, what happens if somebody breaks in your house? He says, I call the police. I said, you're not a pacifist. You're a transferent. Now, I'm not telling you that's the wrong thing. I'm not saying that's the wrong thing at all. You should call the police. But let me show you what it looks like. Jesus says, repay no one evil for evil, but give thought to do what is honorable in the sight of all. If possible, this is Romans 12. Your notes, I think, say 10, but it's Romans 12. If possible, so far as it depends on you, live peaceably with all, beloved. Now watch this. This is the thing. Yeah, we move towards peace, whatever that looks like. And sometimes that means dealing with conflict. We have a number of law enforcement people in the room. That means dealing with conflict. You go to the conflict. You don't just ignore it. Dads, you hear your son speaking harshly to your wife. You don't just walk away. You deal with the conflict. Sometimes, we have school administrators. You have to deal with the conflict. But he says, never avenge yourself, but leave it to the wrath of God. Because if anyone's going to evoke wrath, God would know what to do. And he'll know how to do it right. We mess it up a lot because our emotions bring that in. Be at peace. That word be at peace, literally in the Greek, it means I'm seeking peace. Let me show you a picture. This is from Nazareth. This is my friend Renee. These are Jewish kids and Arab kids at a camp together worshiping God in Nazareth this week. This week. Do you think this is easy? No. But we work towards peace. Let me tell you another little practical thing that I learned this year, not this year, during COVID. Disagreeing with me does not make you my enemy.
Randy.
Yeah.
Where are you from, Randy?
You
Wilmore, Kentucky?
I'm from Wilmore, Kentucky.
I was there once. Only took 5 minutes to walk through.
Yeah.
Only two good things come out of Kentucky. Bad preachers and bad football teams. Ooh, your sermons are a lot like the Kentucky football team. I don't see them making any good points either. Ooh. Do you ride a bike?
Yeah.
Ooh. Yeah, I could tell because you're so slow. Even your tires think you're parked.
Wow. Are you done?
No.
No?
John Piper does better sermons than you, and he has hair.
John Piper does have hair. It's weird hair, but it's hair. So, yeah.
Ooh.
Okay.
Man, I got more too.
You got more?
You could have done so much better during COVID. You know that.
I do know that.
Ooh. Hey, who's this guy?
He's playing the role of God right now.
I'm still here. I'm behind the big guy. I'm still here. I got more to say.
You got more to say?
Yeah.
I think you done said enough.
Yeah. Let me stay up here, Marky Mark, all right? Let me show you this. Listen. He prepares a table before me in the presence of my enemies. Okay, now let me just make this really clear. Mark didn't prepare the table, the Lord did. If he prepares the table, who's closer to me, him or my enemy? The Lord. Who stands between me? He's in the presence of my enemy. He's in the presence of me. And here's the thing. I can look around him and look for my enemy, or I can look at the Lord. I can't look at both at the same time.
Amen.
And you got to choose. And it's what the text says. The word there, thank you guys. You know, you never really rebuked him for the Kentucky football stuff, though.
Randy. He was right.
Yeah. Thanks, guys. Why don't you guys take this off, and we've got a testimony. The Hebrew word there, where it says the presence of my enemies, the wording of that is not the same word as enemies in other places where it's specifically just talking about the enemy. It's talking about the comforting of us in the presence of our enemy is the emphasis of the word there. The emphasis is not on the enemy. The emphasis is on the comfort. We have enemies, though. And we will go through things that are really hard. Miss Cheryl, come on up here. This is Cheryl Massey. Her son is Rodney. He plays keys here for us and sings and leads and plays guitar. And I'm going to let her share her story, but she is someone who has become a friend to me. Her husband and I were becoming friends, and I'll let her share the rest of it. Would you guys welcome Cheryl Massey?
So, good morning, church. It's my privilege to come this morning and be able to share an experience that my family and I endured. I had the privilege of being married to a wonderful man. He was a great father. He was a great husband, and later was called into the ministry, and in my opinion, became a great pastor. So when he was called into the ministry, we began our service at a church in Decatur, Georgia. It was a church of people who looked like me. It was an African-American church. We had a great fellowship with the people. We were enjoying ministry. And then 13 years after being there, the Lord just spoke. And he said, move. It's time for you to go and serve at another church. That was very scary for us because for our entire spiritual walk, getting saved, going into the ministry, we were at this church. But we listened. And just like he did with Abraham, he just told us to go. He didn't tell us where to go. So we started our search and we started praying. And what we noticed is that every church on the list that God gave us to visit was a church full of people who did not look like us. That was very confusing and concerning to us, and it was very scary. So we started visiting those churches. We visited several churches. Two stands out. One church we went to, no one welcomed us as we walked into the door. No one said, thanks for being here. But at the end of the service, a couple walked over to us, looked us straight into the eye and said, you wouldn't like it here. And then we visited another church. And the pastor's wife came up to us afterwards and started talking to us, asking us what church did we come from. And we were somewhat encouraged until the conversation continued. You see, they had one African-American man worshiping in their church, and she said to us, Does a bus go to that church? Because we think you should invite that gentleman to go to that church that you had came from. So at the time, we were my husband and I were both in seminary. So I got to talking to one of my professors, and he said, we were talking about churches and how difficult it was to find a church. And he said, come to my church. And he was Caucasian, and so I was a bit nervous, but I said, okay, he's inviting us. I went home, I told my husband, I said, hey, we've been invited to another church. And he said, let's go. So that following Sunday, we went to that church. And we found a group of people who welcomed us with open arms. They were very kind, warm, welcoming, and we felt very welcomed. A few weeks later, the pastor invited my husband to preach a sermon at that church. And he did, and it was received very well by the congregation, and so was he. As time went on, my husband became on staff. He was invited to take a position at that church on staff as the family life pastor. While he was on staff, we developed and had the very first baby dedication service there. We started a newly married Sunday school class. We had marital counseling. We conducted classes on family and how to raise Christian children. We both taught Bible study on Wednesday night, and everything was going great. We've been there 12 years, and every year my husband would go on an annual sabbatical for 2 weeks just to get away and to spend time, him and the Lord. And he came home from that sabbatical, and he said, honey, the Lord is now telling us it's time for me to become a senior pastor. So at that moment, I thought, that means it's time to move. And it became scary again. But then a second thing happened. The pastor at that church confided in my husband and let him know, I am about to retire. And I would like for you to put your name in the hat to become the next senior pastor of this church. My husband did that. The search committee went through the resumes and they nominated my husband to be the candidate for the next senior pastor at that church. And everything changed at that moment. Those people who had been so loving and caring to us, all of a sudden were against us. We had prayed over them on their sick beds. We were there at the birth of their children. We comforted them during the death of their loved ones. We married some of them. We counseled some of them, and they actually told us we saved their marriages. But they did not want us to lead them. Fellowship time, they refused to shake our hands. They refused to hug us. They stopped speaking to us. And on the day of the vote, my husband did not get enough votes, and he did not become the senior pastor of the church. He was not selected. Where do we go from here? That's what we were asking. Where do we go from here? We were very discouraged. We were very confused. But at the same time, we were very focused on what God would have us to do. So God told us very clearly, you don't do anything. You continue to serve these people. You continue to fulfill the ministry that I gave you to do, and that's what we did. We stayed there in that church, loving and serving those people. The next year, my husband went on his sabbatical, and he came back and he said, it's time. The Lord has now called me to start a church, and he wants me to start a church that looks like heaven, where there's people there of every nation, every tongue, and every tribe. And that's what we did. We set out, we talked to the pastor, we said our goodbyes, we left, and we began to build that church. But it wasn't long after that we realized how much God was in control. You see, it wasn't a typical church start. We had a congregation full of Caucasians who contacted my husband and said, we're a dying church. We know of your mission. It's the vision we have for our church. You can have our building. Our people have said they will support you. You owe no pastor a position in this church. We just want you to come here and fulfill your mission. There were things that needed to be done to the building. There were AC problems. We had an AC repairman come do it, and he said, it's on me, free. A landscaper came, re-landscaped the church, free. Provided gravel to help with the parking lot, free. Free services were just coming from everywhere, and we knew that though there were some that were against us, that were in our presence, they were not able to hinder what God was doing to prepare us for his next ministry for us. So why do I come and tell you this today? You see, this was a very difficult and traumatic experience. My husband started that church, and as a matter of fact, today it is celebrating its 10th year in existence. But my husband is no longer the senior pastor there, because 3.5 years after that church started, the Lord took him home to be with him. And so here I was, no longer, I went back to the church, but I just could not do it. And so no longer did I have that security of being under my husband's shepherds at the church. So I'm experiencing the trauma of losing my husband. I'm experiencing the trauma of no longer being in the safety net of that church. And I'm dealing with the trauma of all I went through in my past church searches, as well as that past church experience. So I went through a process of looking for a church, and I continued to be faithful with the type of church the Lord wanted me to be in. But every church I walked into, I just was scared. I had no faith and trust in the Caucasian Christian community. I had lost that. I had no faith and trust in a Caucasian pastor. I had lost that. So where do I go? When I thought I was at the end of my journey, I had 2 friends call me and say, and they had gone through these traumatic experiences with me, and they said, where are you going to church? And I said, I haven't found anywhere yet. They said, we haven't either, so we're going to do this together. And that couple walked with me, and every church we went to thereafter, they were there. And then one day, we walked into Grace New Hope. Still scared, still leery, until I got to know Pastor Randy. And Pastor Randy, I will say to you and to this entire congregation that this man restored my faith in a Caucasian pastor. He and his family have been incredible to me. They have loved me, they have reassured me, and they have been here with me. And I am just grateful to the Lord for Pastor Randy, for this church. I'm grateful. Now, why did I share this? Did I share this so that you can leave here today focusing on a bad situation? Absolutely not. I'm here today to put the spotlight on God. And I want to tell you that bad situations in life are going to happen, right? We're going to experience death. We're going to experience racism. We're going to experience tough bosses, but we still have a mission to fulfill our purpose and the plan that God has for us. And that's where our focus needs to be. Not on retaliation, not on revenge. If there's any revenge to be had, God will have it. But we are to focus on the Lord as we go through it. We need to make sure and remember that we have a good God who causes all things to work for the good of those who love him and are called according to his purposes. And I would be remiss if I didn't end this with my late husband's favorite motto: dream big, pray hard, build people, and trust God with the results. Thank you.
I didn't know you were going to do that last part. I didn't know that she was going to do that one piece. It's not about me, it's about us. It's about us. You can't lead if the church ain't with you on this stuff. Let me just close with this word picture. We are going to have enemies in this world. But we need to look at Jesus. And not look past him. And not look past the hurts and all the wounds. We were, worship team, come on up here. We were yesterday doing my grandson Maverick's 3-year-old birthday party. And it was the first party we'd had in the new house. There was 50 people there. And Anita and I will go home today, get IVs, and watch golf. But we, Mav had done the whole party and the toys and the decorations, and they had made, it was a Paw Patrol party, and they'd made Paw Patrol dogs out of clay, and then it came to the cake time, and Maverick had put off what every little boy needs to do pretty often for as long as he could, and he comes running up, he goes, "Grandpa, I gotta go potty." So I took him back, to our room, and we have they have those potty chair now. Those of us that are older, remember we used to be terrified we were gonna fall in, but now they have like ladders and these things that they climb up. It's amazing, so I set it all up for him, and then I just stepped out of the room, and I was kind of out in the main part of the bathroom, and I said, "Maverick, you know why everybody's here today?" He goes, "This is my birthday." I said, "Maverick, do you know what that means about every person here?" He goes, "Yes, Grandpa." I said, "What's it mean?" He goes, "It means they all like cake." And I said, "No, buddy. It means they love you." Church, listen. We have a God who is close. He protects us. There will be enemies in this world. Keep your eyes on the one who prepares the table before you. Be at peace if you can. Seek peace if you can. It doesn't mean we avoid dealing with conflict. We leave the wrath part up to him. Because he knows how to do it better than us. And rightly. This morning, we're going to pray at the crosses. You can pray at the altars. We're going to share this table. This is the place of repentance. If you've got something against somebody in this room, if you have an enemy in this room, go and make it right. Remember the pattern of Jesus. Judas left the Last Supper with a full belly and clean feet. We have a God who has modeled this for us.